Let's have a look at simple tooth movement. The first one we look at is uncontrolled tipping, where the center rotation is apical to the center of resistance, but it's still not at the apex. This is the movement. So you can see that the apex moves in a reverse direction compared to the crown, and the crown moves a lot more than the apex. So that's uncontrolled tipping. In controlled tipping, we change the moment to force ratio, and we bring the center of rotation, call it an area of rotation, around the apex. This time the apex will move even less, a little bit, but not too much, but the crown will move even more, and the resorption stresses are slightly different. For translation, you bring the center of rotation at the center of resistance, and the tooth will just translate. The apex and the crown translate the same distance. Then the most complicated movement is when you bring the center of rotation to the incisal edge or around the bracket or the attachment if you use aligners, and you use what we call root torque, which could be buccal root torque or labial root torque. As you can see, the center rotation is still not completely stationary. It's more of an area of rotation. Intrusion, and there are two ways to intrude teeth. The first one is through the long axis of the tooth, where you will be putting a force that goes right through the long axis of this tooth, this way, and you intrude the tooth. You intrude the tooth this way, right into the socket. So you can see it puts a lot of stress into the apical area. Another way to get what we call relative intrusion is to use a force that is not going through the long axis of the tooth. Let's assume it would be somewhere in here, and then the tooth will, you get the illusion of intrusion. The incisal edge is going incisally, but then the tooth is also rotating, and depending on the force system you'll be using, you will get different types of intrusion. This is called relative intrusion. The last one that we discuss also is extrusion, where you will have pure extrusion, where you'll be able to take the tooth within this long axis and extrude it. Again, the simple force of the resultant force has to go through the long axis of the tooth. Relative extrusion, you use a force system, a combination of a force and a moment to move the center of rotation outside of the tooth, and then when you apply this force system, this is what you will be getting. So you can see that the center rotation has changed, and now the tooth behaves differently and will give you some form of rotation, mix of rotation and some extrusion, but it's not through the long axis of the tooth. Thank you.